Thank you. Actually, when I referred to Ulu Lachau and Kampung Bantal and Kampung Pagi, that by itself denotes disparity of income by itself. In that way, although I didn't mean it to be in ethnic lines, but I'm talking more about the geographical area, in fact. Those are very, very rural areas. And rural areas are, without exception, areas in which the income level is much lower than the urban areas. So by giving that example, I didn't say just about the Malay kampung. I'm talking about rural areas as a whole. So we are dealing with that on the basis of giving opportunities with respect to merit and social justice. So when we talk about social justice, we are talking about needs of the people as well. In terms of electoral reform, yes, I'm committed to electoral reforms. I said so in my speech, and we will undertake electoral reforms. And those reforms will make for example, if people are concerned about the so-called phantom voters, we will make sure that no phantom voters. If we can agree on the biometric system, for example, there will be no chance of phantom voters whatsoever. But we need to have the buy-in from the people. We need to show the people that we have a system. They have a system that has got integrity of the system. Is it? So, yes, the government is committed to electoral reform, and we will undertake electoral reforms in this country. I alluded to this point in my speech about One Malaysia, that One Malaysia is predicated on the Constitution of Malaysia. So it doesn't depart from the Constitution of Malaysia. People may have a different perspective of what One Malaysia means, but when we explain One Malaysia, it means that we are going to be as fair as we can to all ethnic groups. But at the same time, whatever we do has to be based on the Malaysian Constitution. The principles of the Constitution remain. So in other words, in terms of, in terms of some of the, special provisions and so forth in the Constitution, they remain. Because we cannot do away with those things. So I don't think you have any fear of losing those things. But at the same time, in areas where we can be fair, we should be fair to all Malaysians, especially Malaysians who are in the lower income group. Irrespective of their ethnic background, they must be helped. I believe in that. You talk about addressing poverty, you talk about addressing the lower middle income group. That should be across the board. All ethnic communities should benefit from our policies and programs. Vote from overseas, I'll have to look into this. What are the provisions? There's no provision with respect to this yet, and whether we need changes to the Constitution or to the law. So we will study this and see whether it's practical or not for us to do it. We don't have if we have to change the Constitution, then we have to engage with the opposition because we don't have two-thirds majority at this time. Okay? Yeah, first of all, in terms of communication, the very fact that we are having this is one of the forums in which we can engage with people, and this is a very discerning and critical audience. So that's one of the ways in which we are trying to engage with different groups of people in our society, because not everyone thinks the same way. I think, as I said earlier, the Malaysian society is a society in transition. So we need to allow for different forums in which we can find and listen to the views of the people. I believe that we should do more and more listening as opposed to talking to people. Because if you listen to the people, then you can formulate policies that really reflect the wishes of the rakyat. And an example of this is when we did our national key result areas 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. We had 6 areas. At that time, the cost of living was not the main issue. But over the last few months, when we had our meetings with people, we realized now that has become the #1 issue. So therefore we decided that 6 NKRAs are not cast in stone. They can be reviewed. So we decided to have another one, which is tackling the cost of living. So that is a good example in which the government has responded, to the needs of the people. The other thing is to go online, of course. I have my own One Malaysia website. It is interactive. I also have Facebook and Twitter accounts. And that's where people, send a lot of their views. And specifically when it comes to the budget, for example, we do get suggestions from the public, and those suggestions are viewed, analyzed, and if they're found to be very constructive, then they are taken up and introduced as part of the budget. So the engagement with the people may not be just a physical engagement, it could be online engagement as well, so that we are able to reach out to as many people as possible. Now we have different ways of doing things in Malaysia. I mean, debate, for example, we have debates in Parliament that is very open. The debate in Parliament is very open, and the opposition will state their views and we will reply to their views. When you talk about free campaigning, actually the opposition does more campaigning than we do. They almost every night they're out campaigning. So there is that latitude given. If there is no democracy in Malaysia, we won't allow for that to happen. They are campaigning all over the country, and that's, in some countries, you're not allowed to campaign until the official campaign period starts. But in Malaysia, once the general election is over, they start campaigning for the next general election. So we have a different style of doing things in Malaysia, but there is opportunity for you to hear the views of both sides. And I'm sure you'll be hearing the views of the opposition as well, through the internet, through the YouTube and so many things. So there is that active discourse that's going on in our society. So I would say that Malaysia is an open society. We may not mimic what's happened in America or Europe, but there is that open discourse in Malaysia. I don't want to respond in a way that will divide me with my deputy, because that's a very dangerous thing to do in Malaysian politics. That they will say, the deputy prime minister and the prime minister, they don't see eye to eye. That's going to be bad for us. But whatever it is, take it from me, One Malaysia is our guiding philosophy. It doesn't matter what you say, but at the end of the day, just be fair to all Malaysians and be guided by our constitution. That is what I have in mind. The other one about nuclear power, actually we will engage with the public when the time comes. It's just that it's not the right time yet. Because if we are in a hurry and release information when it's half-baked and we're not ready for comprehensive release of information, then the public will get the wrong perspective of what we have in mind. We have not decided that we will go nuclear, for example. We are in the process of examining all aspects of nuclear power. We also want to go and engage with the countries that are doing the review with respect to nuclear power. So it is a little bit premature for us to release information by dribs and drabs to the public. But I can assure you, when the time comes, before we make a final decision, we will engage and consult the Malaysian public. The Malaysian public will have full disclosure of our intent with regards to nuclear power, one way or the other.